Hi, I'm Charles Capaway. I'm an associate at Eversheds Sutherland and member of the state and local tax team in the Washington, D.C. office. And joining me today is Samantha Trenks, another associate in the D.C. office in the state and local tax group. On behalf of the SALT team, we would like to thank you for reading the latest edition of the SALT Scoreboard publication.
In 2019, the SALT team tracked and tallied the significant taxpayer wins and losses, analyzed the results, and brought you the SALT Scoreboard publication each quarter.
The last time we checked in was after the second quarter of 2019. At that time, taxpayers had prevailed in 35% of total cases. That was a bounce back from the first quarter in which taxpayers prevailed in only 23% of total cases. So Sam, now that we've reached the end of the year, how did taxpayers fare overall?
Well, taxpayers actually did slightly better in the second half of 2019, prevailing 40% of the time. In total in 2019, taxpayers prevailed in 38% of the significant cases.
In comparison with prior years, in 2017, taxpayers prevailed in 41% of total cases, and in 2018, taxpayers prevailed in 37% of total cases. So, even though last year taxpayers started off pretty rough, they ended up bouncing back to be better than the year before.
Now turning to tax type in 2019, taxpayers prevailed in 36% of the cases of both sales and use tax cases and corporate income tax cases.
Were there any states where taxpayers were better or worse than others?
Actually, taxpayers did fairly well in Georgia and Louisiana, where they prevailed 50% and 67% of the time, respectively. However, taxpayers didn't do as well in California and New York, where the likelihood of prevailing was only about 28%.
And were there any big cases from last quarter?
Yeah, there were a lot of really interesting cases that we saw. In Maryland, we saw the Blue Buffalo case, which dealt with the application of Public Law 86-272. In Oregon, we saw the Level 3 communications case, in which the Oregon Tax Court analyzed the market value of a fiber network operator's centrally assessed property. And then in New Mexico, we saw the UPS case, in which the New Mexico Administrative Hearings Office considered the application of a mileage-based apportionment method for a trucking company. And Charles, were there any cases that you found particularly interesting in 2019?
I did. In matter of Mackenzie Hughes, the New York Supreme Court Appellate Division held that the retroactive decertification of a taxpayer for QEZE credits violated its due process rights. There, the New York legislature had made changes to the QEZE certification process beginning in the middle of 2009, but applied them retroactively to the beginning of 2009. There, the department had retroactively decertified the taxpayers because they had allegedly engaged in the now prohibited practice that they referred to as a shirt changing. Ultimately, the court determined that the retroactive decertification violated due process rights. Even though there was a short period of retroactivity, only a few months, the taxpayers were not given adequate forewarning of a change in the law or opportunity to change their behavior.
2019 saw a lot of interesting cases. Thank you for tuning in to this year's SALT Scoreboard Year in Review. We hope that you tune in for future 2020 SALT Scoreboard videos and publications. For more information on the SALT Scoreboard or the state and local tax team, please visit eversheds-sutherland.com, stateandlocaltax.com, or the SALT Shaker app.
Thanks.